Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and Thor Love and Thunder revealed a new look at Valkyrie, seated beside the mighty Thor Jane Foster. And before we even have a second to wish we could be one of those grapes, Bast, damn it, who is that in the lower right-hand corner? That is actor Okosia Sabet in the role IMDb is calling Bastet God, which might also be the Wakandan Panther goddess of Bast. Her headpiece has feline ears. Oh my god. Folks, in one shot, Marvel Studios may have just linked 3 corners of its universe: Thor, Black Panther, and Moon Knight, maybe even Eternals as well. We'll see if they just want us to forget that happened. Bast of Wakanda is derived from the real-world Egyptian feline deity of Bastet. Bastet is often associated with Sekhmet, Sekhmet being the warrior, Bast or Bastet, they go by both names, being the gentler figure of the two. Now, Wakandan mythology in the Marvel Comics, and it's depicted in the 2018 Black Panther film, is a fictional religion inspired from a confluence of cultures across the African continent. Moon Knight explored how Egyptian gods from our history exist within the MCU, and ones like Taweret, Khonshu, and Ammit take an animalistic form, as they do in Egyptian art, and possess humans as their avatars. Bastet appeared among the Egyptian iconography in Moon Knight in the gift shop beside Donna in episode 1, and a statue of Bastet appeared among Makari's collections in Eternals. So she is part of all of this. Hell, Marvel Studios may even say that the way Moon Knight's superpowers come from him being the avatar of Khonshu, the Black Panther is the avatar of Bast. Moon Knight episode 5 had an awesome moment where Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess of fertility and protection, name-dropped the Wakandan ancestral plane from Black Panther.
This is the afterlife? The afterlife?
An afterlife, not the afterlife. You'd be surprised how many intersectional planes of untethered consciousness exist.
Yeah.
Like the ancestral plane. Oh, just gorgeous. Because the duat's true nature is impossible for the human mind to comprehend.
Right.
You may perceive this realm as something more easily recognizable to you.
So the fact that Bastet or Bast now shows up in Thor Love and Thunder in this form tells us a lot about how Marvel Studios wants us to see how the gods and goddesses of all these titles are connected. So let's break down what she is doing here, her relationship with Valkyrie and Jane, and how she will respond to what we think Gore the God Butcher will do to all the gods of this film. And don't worry, I think Bastet's gonna be okay. So Tawaret's line about the ancestral plane indicates that all the afterlives of the MCU are part of the same plane of existence. They just take different appearances to whomever occupies them. For Mark Spector and Stephen Grant, they have been the avatar of the Egyptian deity of Khonshu, making them devout followers of that belief system, and as such, the underworld to them is the Egyptian Duat, also a psych ward of a hospital because they are going through dissociative identity disorder. For T'Challa, he was raised worshiping Bast, as we heard in his line in Civil War.
In my culture, death is not the end. It's more of a stepping off point. You reach out with both hands in Bast and Sekhmet. They lead you into the green veldt where you can run forever.
And so for T'Challa and his ancestors, the afterlife took the form of the ancestral plane. It's interesting how for Killmonger, that afterlife took the form of his father's Oakland apartment. Now it's interesting that T'Challa mentioned both Bast and Sekhmet, implying that they are partners, and we might see both of them at some point in the MCU. And his phrasing sounds a lot like Taweret leading souls through the Duat to the Aru, the Field of Reeds, where they could presumably run forever. This whole belief-centered approach is actually how the Asgardians like Thor and Valkyrie were redefined in more recent Marvel comics as extraterrestrials in a specific stage of their celestial mutation cycle, that their physical appearances and their powers take the form of the inner beliefs of the lower life forms that they protect. So, since the Norse people of 965 AD believed in Viking kings being their saviors, that's the form Odin takes. Now, I don't know how specific Marvel films and series will get with codifying these terms. I'm just saying that a logical framework exists in the comics. Now, Thor Love and Thunder is changing the mythological game by introducing us to the Greek and the Roman gods of the MCU, who reside in Olympus. These include Zeus, but will also likely include Ares and Hercules, maybe Athena, which would present a bit of a logical issue with the Eternals, who were said to be the origins of our real-world mythologies, like Athena being inspired by Athena, etc. But the Eternals film also established that those beings were all synthetic drones designed by the Celestials to caretake planets until those planets were destroyed, and none of those Eternals were actually unique. So they might have actually just gotten their names from from actual cosmic deities who reside in Olympus. And I've theorized in the past how Gorr's anger at all these guys might be due to a corrupt bargain between the Celestials and these other gods of Olympus. Now, when I broke down the Thor Love and Thunder trailer, I pointed out how that shot of Zeus presiding over the pantheon of gods includes rows of seats arranged in a kind of arena with box sections, each section having its own larger figures surrounded by smaller peripheral figures who each get their own seats. And the seats that Jane and Valkyrie and Bastet now sit in look a lot like that same seating arrangement. That bowl of grapes is the same kind of decadence that seems to run throughout Olympus, at Zeus's side and the opulent walkways that they stroll. But this video is brought to you by the Ridge. The Ridge wallet is light, sleek, and industrial. It's designed to fit in your front pocket, unlike those bulky monstrosities that make us sit crooked when they're in our back pockets. The Ridge comes in over 30 styles and colors, including carbon fiber and burnt titanium. It holds up to 12 cards and still has room for cash, so you can show up your fancy Euro collection to cashiers and other people who probably don't care. Every Ridge wallet comes with a lifetime guarantee, and they'll let you test drive it for 45 days and send it back for a full refund if you don't love it. They also have great backpacks, phone cases, and other cool gear. So get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping and returns by going to ridge.com/newrockstars. That's ridge.com/newrockstars and use code newrockstars. Find the link in the video's description. So the fact that these three are seated here tells us a lot, because it means that Asgard and the gods assigned to Midgard, aka Earth, are part of a larger hierarchy of MCU gods, where they all have seats as part of a representative congress at Olympus, where Zeus presides. Now, whether that means Zeus outranked Odin, I don't know. Maybe Valkyrie just doesn't yet have the seniority Odin had. Now, we should say, we do not yet know if Marvel Studios is saying for sure that Bastet and Bast are the same figure within this hierarchy of gods, or if they're actually two separate figures, like the Egyptians had their mythology, the Wakandans had their mythology, and there may have just been some cross-pollination for which culture influenced the other, but they just ended up calling the two different gods by similar sounding names. But it is important to note that in the chronology established by the MCU, the warrior Bashanga first consumed that heart-shaped herb, met Bast, and united the tribes of Wakanda in the year 10,000 BC. That would be long before the ancient Egyptians were around, also long before the ancient civilization that predated the Egyptians, the Sumerians, which was the group the Eternals made contact with in this movie's prologue. So really, according to the MCU, Wakanda and their religious beliefs were the first ones that arose on Earth and would have inspired the others. The Wakandan Bast inspiring the Egyptian Bastet, not the other way around. But it is also totally plausible for Bast and Bastet to just be defined as the same figure. Like the Egyptians could have heard about Bast and given her own similar identity within their mythology. Maybe Bast even used to hang out with Ennead as Bastet and then just parted ways because they suck. But Bast or Bastet, why does she take a human form here? Well, she may only take the form of a giant panther to the mortals of Earth, whereas here she takes on a more practical form. We may even learn that Olympus could be part of the Overvoid, where those 5 members of the Ennead and Moon Knight retreated to. So what is happening here? I think all of these gods, representing the diversity of faiths across planets, are being summoned back to Olympus in this congress with Zeus to respond to a crisis. Gods are being slaughtered, and Valkyrie, now ruler of Asgard, and Jane, now the bearer of Mjolnir, are among these representatives, as is Bastet, maybe also the members of the Ennead, maybe the deity worshipped by the Centaurian tribes. That's the race of Yondu, who also appears in this trailer footage. But I also think this gathering is exactly what Gorr the God Butcher actually wants, so that he can assassinate as many of them as possible in one strike. Now, I do not think that all the gods will die, but several of them probably will, and I'm sure it's gonna be pretty fun. But while I think the senior gods are gonna be the bigger targets, they're literally looming large as bullseyes in each box there, I think the lesser gods will have a better chance of escaping. So like Hercules, a Marvel hero many want to see in an active role in the MCU, technically the half-mortal son of Zeus. I hope he escapes. And of course, Bast or Bastet, especially in her less assuming human form, might be less of a target. But there's also gonna be an opportunity to show how much of a badass warrior Bast is, or her partner Sekhmet is, how they can fend off Gorr's assault, proving that the Black Panther's strength comes from a goddess protecting her people on fronts they are not even aware of. Because folks, I don't think the MCU is gonna eliminate Bast from this universe ahead of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Really, I think she appears here to suggest that the people of Wakanda are part of the same hierarchy as the Asgardians, the Eternals, and Moon Knight. And this is exactly the cross-title organization this scattered Phase 4 universe really needs. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss, follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching, bye.